Men and women should start having sex, but wait. Before you let your assumptions run wild, let me tell you something important. This isn't about promoting recklessness. It's not about indulgence or rebellion. This is a call to rise above the fear, confusion, and shame we've attached to one of the most powerful forces in human existence. It's time to redefine what it means to come together, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. We were born from union. We carry within us the memory of connection. But somewhere along the way we forgot. We began to associate sex with guilt, with secrecy, with pain, with manipulation. Society taught us that wanting it made us bad, that enjoying it made us shameful, that talking about it made us vulgar. And yet it's everywhere, advertised, sold, hidden, craved. We're starved for connection but afraid to look for it where it truly begins. Here's the truth. Sex is not dirty. It is not weak. It is not something to be feared or abused or locked behind walls of silence. At its purest, it is the deepest form of vulnerability. Two people choosing to show up, to open up, to share not just bodies but souls. When it's conscious, sex becomes more than a moment. It becomes a mirror. It reflects back who we are, how we love, how we hurt, how we heal. But we've lost that meaning. We've reduced sex to a transaction. Swipe right, hook up, move on. We've mistaken performance for connection. We've confused validation for intimacy. We've turned something sacred into something shallow, and we're all paying the price. Loneliness, broken relationships, emotional numbness, physical closeness without emotional safety. We've become afraid of true connection because we no longer know how to recognize it. So yes, men and women should start having sex, but not the way it's been happening, not mindlessly, not casually, not as an escape, not out of boredom or pressure or insecurity. They should start having sex consciously, with intention, with reverence, with emotional honesty. They should start having sex that feels like home, not war. Sex that awakens, not numbs. Sex that nourishes, not drains. Sex can be a form of worship, not of the body, but of the soul inhabiting that body. When two people enter each other's space with tenderness, curiosity, and honor, something profound unfolds. We feel seen, we feel chosen, we feel enough, and in that safety, something inside us begins to transform. That kind of connection doesn't destroy, it builds. It doesn't wound, it heals. It doesn't diminish you, it expands you. But to get there, we must first undo the lies. We must break the cycles of using and being used. We must take responsibility for what we bring into our intimate spaces, the wounds, the expectations, the unspoken fears. We must stop chasing validation through someone else's body and start reclaiming our own. Only then can sex become what it was always meant to be, a dance of two whole people, not two half people trying to feel complete. We need to talk to our young people differently. We need to model intimacy rooted in consent, respect, communication, and depth. We need to teach them that their worth is not tied to their desirability, that their bodies are not tools of negotiation, and that pleasure is not shameful. It is sacred when it's shared with integrity. To the men, your masculinity is not proven through conquests. It is revealed in your ability to hold space, to listen, to protect without control. The strongest thing you can do is be present, not perform. To make your partner feel safe, not small. To understand that sex isn't a goal to be won, but a connection to be nurtured. To the women, your value doesn't decrease with experience. Your body is not something to hide, nor to trade. It is a temple, not because someone else says so, but because it is yours. You are not made for someone's pleasure. You are made for your own power, and when you choose to share it, let it be with someone who deserves to witness your light. Sex is an act of creation, not just of life, but of energy, of emotions, of new versions of ourselves. When we make love with presence, we create trust, we create joy, we create self, worth. But when we do it from a place of fear, scarcity, or silence, we create confusion. Trauma, emptiness, we owe ourselves more than that. What if we treated our intimate relationships the same way we treat sacred rituals? What if we prepared, reflected, gave thanks, and approached them with mindfulness? What if we stopped using sex to hide from our wounds and started using it to heal them? Because real intimacy is rare, it requires courage. It means removing the masks, the roles we play, the facades we maintain. It's about saying, "Here I am imperfect, afraid, learning, and I trust you enough to see me." That kind of trust is terrifying and beautiful. And it's worth the wait, it's worth the effort, it's worth protecting. So no, this isn't a speech about promiscuity. This is a speech about maturity, about awakening, about moving beyond surface level attraction and tapping into the deeper magnetic pull between two evolving souls. When sex is done right, it's not just skin touching skin, it's truth touching truth, and that truth can change your life. We need to remember that sex is not just something you do, it's something you feel, it lingers, it imprints. It affects your nervous system, your confidence, your dreams. We've been treating it lightly for too long, and the heaviness of that has started to show. In our depression, in our divorces, in our addictions, in our lack of self-worth, it's time to reframe, to choose differently, to pause before undressing and ask, am I safe here? Am I seen here? Am I choosing this because it aligns with who I am, or because I'm trying to escape who I am? That level of self-check is what separates empowered sex from empty sex, and the world needs more of the empowered kind. Imagine a world where men and women respected themselves and each other enough to make every intimate moment a conscious one. Imagine children growing up without the shame we carried. Imagine relationships built on transparency, not transaction. That world isn't a fantasy. It's possible, but only if we become the ones brave enough to live it. Let's start honoring our bodies, our boundaries, and our desires. Let's teach through our example that sex isn't about domination or submission, it's about partnership. Let's remind each other that true satisfaction doesn't come from climax. It comes from connection, from presence, from being chosen not just for our appearance, but for our essence. If you've ever been hurt, used, confused, or ashamed in the name of intimacy, you're not broken. You were misled, but now you know better. Now you have the power to make a different choice, and your body, your heart, your spirit will thank you for it. So yes, men and women should start having sex, but not for the reasons the world tells you. Do it when your soul is ready, when your mind is clear, when your heart is open. Do it as an act of love, not as a replacement for love. Do it with someone who sees all of you and stays. Because the most powerful intimacy isn't loud. It's quiet. It's gentle, it's kind, and when two people meet in that space free of games, free of ego, free of fear, they don't just change each other. They change the world. Most people think of sex as purely physical, a momentary act, a release, a transaction between bodies. But that's the shallowest layer of what sex truly is. At its highest form, sex is not just about touch, it's about energy. It's not just about pleasure, it's about presence. It's not just about climax, it's about connection. When two people come together with open hearts, clear minds, and mutual respect, sex becomes more than an act. It becomes an exchange of something sacred. In that space, you're not just touching skin, you're exchanging energy. You're sharing a part of your soul. You're entering a realm where vulnerability becomes a bridge, not a weakness. It's emotional because you're being seen in your rawest state. It's spiritual because something unspoken passes between you, something that transcends the physical senses. And to access that depth, it requires more than desire. It requires trust. It requires emotional maturity. It requires intention. But we live in a world that rarely teaches us this. Instead, we're fed shame. We're taught taboo. We're told to suppress desire or to express it recklessly, with no guidance on the space in between. Women are told their worth lies in their purity or their performance. Men are told to conquer, not to feel. And in this confusion, we lose the magic of what intimacy was always meant to be, a healing, powerful, transformative force. We need to move beyond the outdated narratives, beyond the judgment, the guilt, the silence. We need to reclaim intimacy as a sacred language, one that speaks through the body, but is born from the soul. That means unlearning. That means becoming conscious of who we allow into our most vulnerable space. That means understanding that sacred sex is not about impressing, dominating, or escaping. It's about aligning, honoring, and evolving. When we start to view intimacy through this lens, everything changes. We stop seeking quick validation and start seeking deep resonance. We stop giving ourselves away and start sharing ourselves intentionally. We begin to understand that the real power of sex isn't in how it looks, it's in how it feels, how it heals, how it helps us grow. Because when sex is sacred, it awakens something in us. It connects us not only to another person, but to a deeper part of ourselves. It reminds us that we are worthy of being loved, not just touched, that we are meant to be cherished, not consumed, that we have the power to choose connection that doesn't leave us feeling empty but whole. ChatGPT said, "We live in a time where casual encounters are glorified, where swipes, hookups, and one-night stands are seen as signs of liberation. The world has become fast food, fast money, fast love, and sex has followed suit. It's marketed as something casual, effortless, unburdened by emotion. But in this speed, in this surface-level indulgence, something sacred is being lost. True intimacy, the kind that reaches into the depths of your being, is becoming rare. We've mistaken availability for connection. We've confused access with closeness. And in the process, we've started settling for physical nearness without emotional safety, without spiritual resonance, without mental alignment. We've been conditioned to believe that pleasure is the goal, power is the game, and validation is the prize. But none of that creates true intimacy, none of that fills the void, none of that teaches us how to truly love ourselves or another. Before rushing into sex, before we lay our bodies bare, we must first strip away the layers of programming we've been fed. We need to unlearn the toxic narratives that tell us our worth is tied to our desirability, that love must always involve sacrifice, that masculinity is about conquest, and that femininity is about being chosen. These lies don't serve us, they trap us. They lead us into empty connections, into emotional confusion, into cycles of guilt and regret. It's time to rewrite the story. Sex was never meant to be a battleground for ego. It was never supposed to be a transaction of approval. At its highest purpose, sex is a powerful medium for healing, for awakening, for connection. When entered consciously, it can be a gateway to deeper understanding of self, of another, of the sacred dance between the two. Imagine if we stopped using sex to feel wanted and started using it to feel aligned. Imagine if we chose partners not based on appearance or status, but on presence, authenticity, and emotional safety. Imagine if pleasure was redefined, not just as a physical sensation, but as a reflection of mutual trust, shared energy, and soul-level resonance. Because real intimacy isn't just about what happens in the bedroom, it's about what happens before and after. It's about the energy you bring into the space. It's about communication, respect, honesty, and emotional integrity. It's about feeling seen, heard, and held, not just touched. Sex can be a tool for personal growth when approached with clarity and consciousness. It can help us confront our fears, reveal our wounds, and experience vulnerability as strength. It can teach us to slow down, to listen, to feel, and to give without losing ourselves. But only if we stop using it to fill an emotional void or chase momentary validation. The truth is, casual sex without intention leaves a mark. It leaves behind fragments of ourselves we didn't realize we gave away. But sacred sex, intentional, conscious, deeply connected sex, it restores us. It doesn't leave us empty. It fills us with life. So before we rush in, let us pause, let us reflect. Let us ask, is this connection elevating me or draining me? Am I being seen, or am I just being used? Am I stepping into this moment from wholeness or from a wound? Because when we start asking those questions, we begin to honor sex for what it truly is, not just an act, but a mirror. A reflection of how we see ourselves, how we value others, and how brave we are to love deeply in a world that often teaches us to stay shallow. This is not just about desire, it's about responsibility. It's not just about satisfying a craving or fulfilling a fantasy. It's about understanding the weight, the depth, and the impact of what we're doing when we choose to share our most vulnerable selves with another human being. Because when two people come together in intimacy, it's not just a meeting of bodies. It's a merging of energies, of pasts, of wounds, of dreams. And that is sacred ground. Every person carries invisible luggage, silent battles, unresolved traumas, childhood pain, insecurities, hopes, fears, longings. When you connect physically with someone, you're not just touching their skin, you're stepping into their story. You're becoming a witness to what they've been through, what they believe about themselves, what they fear in love, what they crave but may never say out loud. And whether you realize it or not, you're being affected by it. You're exchanging more than just touch. You're exchanging emotion, vibration, memory. That's why sex must be entered with intention. Not just with consent, but with consciousness, with presence, with care. When it's not, when it's used to escape loneliness, to numb pain, to feed the ego, or to seek external validation, it becomes a wound disguised as pleasure. It might feel good in the moment, but afterward, it often leaves a silence that echoes louder than we expected. A weight we can't quite name, because sex, when unconscious, can take more than it gives. It can drain your energy, cloud your clarity, confuse your heart. But sex, when conscious, when grounded in mutual respect, emotional maturity, and self-awareness, it becomes a force of creation, of healing, of connection. This is why we must take responsibility, not just for our pleasure, but for our presence, for our choices, for the energy we bring into another's life, even for a moment. Responsibility means asking the hard questions. Am I emotionally available for this? Am I aware of what I'm offering and what I'm receiving? Am I using this moment to escape something or to deepen something real? True intimacy asks us to grow up, to stop seeing sex as a game to win, a goal to reach, or a void to fill. It asks us to slow down, to become aware of our intentions, to recognize that our bodies are not tools of persuasion or power, they are sacred vessels. And so are the bodies we touch. Responsibility means understanding that we do not walk away from intimacy untouched, and neither does the other person. Whether we admit it or not, we leave pieces of ourselves behind. We absorb energy, we open doors inside us. We invite another soul into the most tender, unguarded parts of our being, even if just for a moment. Shouldn't we be mindful of who we let into that space? We need to teach our boys and girls and remind ourselves that sex is not a prize, not a performance, not a proof of worth. It is a choice, a powerful, sacred, human choice, and with that choice comes a responsibility to honor not just the body in front of us, but the soul inside it. So if you're going to engage in sex, let it not be out of boredom or pressure or insecurity. Let it be because your spirit says yes, not just your body. Let it be because you are ready to hold space, to be present, to be kind, to be real. Let it be because you understand that intimacy is not just something you do, it's something you become. Because at the end of the day, sex that is rooted in ego fades. but sex that is rooted in responsibility, intention, and mutual respect, that leaves an imprint. Not just on the body, but on the soul. And that kind of intimacy isn't just rare, it's revolutionary.